Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025. I am J.R. Stays, coming to you from our studio at Techtown, and across the table from me is none other than the excellent Mr. Friday, Devon O'Reilly. How are you?
Great to be here, Jer. Beautiful day. Summer is in the air. We've got some cool stuff to talk about. What's better?
Right? This city is beautiful, and later in the show, we're going to talk about how even more people think this city is beautiful because they moved here. But first, let's get into where we've been. I see new coffee in front of us.
I brought you a little treat today from Haraz Coffee. Haraz Coffee is a Yemeni coffee shop. It started in Dearborn. It's expanded now to it's expanded it to multiple states. It's in different states, definitely other cities. They had the building wrap for their Detroit location up for a while, and today is the absolute first day it's open. It's a soft opening.
This location, tell me more about it.
Yeah, it's right in Corktown. It's 1501 Church Street. So it's basically in a newly built parking deck on the ground floor of a newly built parking deck just off of Michigan and Trumbull. So it's not like super obvious to see. You kind of have to know that it's there. If you're walking, you'll see it. They have a little bit of a patio set up, so it kind of calls you in. I want to stop because I know we talk about this a lot, like the Yemeni coffee shop, like what's the difference type of thing. And I think that, people have to understand that when we talk about Yemeni coffee shops, yes, they are, there's a certain vibe a certain aesthetic that they have. It's extremely high end. It looks very kind of fashionable, high end. There's nice woods, marble. The lighting's really cool. We'll share some pictures because I did get to take some pictures. So follow up with some pictures of it. So the Yemeni coffee shop definitely has a vibe, the type of vibe you want to hang out in. This is not a kind of get in and out type of place. Looks really nice. There's leather, but also, yes, they have all these different drinks. The Sanani is one of my favorites. There's another one where they leave the husk into the tea, but you can also just get coffee. And I think people, creatures of habit, I feel like sometimes I talk about maybe Yemeni coffee shops a lot because there's so many where I live, and people think like, well, I'm not ready for that. I just want my Starbucks or my Tim Hortons. I want them to know that these places also have regular coffee, and we're just drinking Americanos here. You have oat milk in yours, or iced Americanos. Like, you can get regular coffee if you so choose.
Tell me about the spot itself.
It's first floor of the parking garage. It's a really nice. It's got a mixture of seating. It's got some kind of high top bar seating. It's got lower chairs with a lot of leather. It's got, like I said, a little bit of a patio on the outside. The menu has everything from lattes to sweets to kind of baked goods. Again, you could do things iced. You could do them hot. It's lovely. It looks kind of like it's very much in the neighborhood, because it's kind of right around that little Trumbull collection of places like Folk and all that. So I think it'll tie nicely into kind of being maybe a neighborhood coffee shop.
I love how Corktown is starting to really get more and more of those places that help tie the rest of the whole thing together. Because there's coffee in Corktown.
There is, but now I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm looking at a map, and it's like there is a need for more coffee. I mean, as much as dense as Corktown is, you have James Oliver on kind of one side, you have Elba on another side of Corktown along Michigan
Lucky
Avenue.
Coffee.
You have Lucky. Those are all on the same side of the street, though. So nothing really on South Michigan Avenue, or the south side of Michigan Avenue. So I don't think this will be probably like the first place. Maybe the Summertown Market you could get coffee, but that's not really their thing. So this is kind of the first true coffee shop on that south end of Michigan Avenue. So that's pretty cool, and I think it's needed.
Yeah, and there's even more things that are going to be coming. A listener had made some points about Michigan Central, and I think we touched on a little bit that Michigan Central, they feel like there wasn't enough happening at Michigan Central. Yeah. I want to mention that I learned that New Lab actually has a wait list for new tenants, and some of that is going to spill over to the tower, to Michigan Central, because there is such a demand for stuff. And with that is going to be people who want coffee. It's going to be people who want to live nearby. It's going to be people.
Yeah, and there's the yellow light in there, and I think we got it was me, maybe got corrected by a listener who said Yellow Light is open every day. It's just limited hours. I think they close at like 2 or 3 o'clock. Yeah. So Yellow Light is open. You can go in there and get coffee, but certainly more is going to transpire. I've been in New Lab plenty of times. New Lab actually has a coffee shop inside of it. It's not, New Lab isn't open to the public yet. I mean, but if you're going there or meeting somebody there, they have a coffee shop inside as well. So there's going to certainly be more.
The other thing I would suggest to people, if they do work in an office environment, and I see this a lot, like engineer Randy works in the Renson and says a lot of his coworkers, they don't really want to go very far to try anything, right? They
I
don't want
hate
to
to hear
cross
that. That's true.
Jefferson, whatever, right? It is very true. I used to work in corporate downtown. You drive in, whatever. It is so good for your soul to go out and get coffee or get some fresh air, to walk, to think things. You know, Steve Jobs from Apple would always take people on a walk to talk with them. And I do the same thing too. You just think better than having your posterior in a seat for 8 hours straight. You got to get up and stretch. I know it's hard. I know that bosses can be jerks and whatever, but like you got to give yourself that, or else I learned that myself. You got to get moving.
Yeah, I think better. I think better the same way. Getting up, moving, just going offsite for something. Talking about something in a conference room feels very formal, and sometimes you just want to like talk to somebody about an issue that may be complicated, and just going somewhere offsite it makes your brain percolate a little bit more, to bring the coffee analogy back to it. So, can you get coffee at the place you went to?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can get nearby to Bevs Bagels, which is the newest addition to, as one of our Patreon member Discord people said, our Detroit bagel scene, which I didn't realize there was a Detroit bagel scene, but I feel like maybe there is a Detroit bagel scene.
There is now. A few years ago, there really wasn't much. I don't think there was a lot of bagel places in Detroit, but now we are seeing a proliferation of that. So how is this addition to the scene?
Excellent. So Max Sussman, he is James Beard Award nominated. He's been doing pop-ups and all kinds of different stuff over the years. Actually, his pop-ups have been in Ann Arbor. They're continuing in Ann Arbor. But this place, Bevs Bagels, I went to the soft opening. Wow, just excellent. It's in part of the old Detroit Institute of Bagel space.
Okay.
Not the whole thing, part of it. I actually like that it's a counter. Like you go in, it's like an old school diner counter, but bagels, which is great.
Like a retro feel?
Yeah, it's total retro feel. It is in that series of developments that is along Grand River, but just south of Warren. So you've got like the bread thing there. You've got, I believe it's Barta. Mm-hmm. You've got a bunch of other little businesses around there, that little collection
Prince
around
Market.
the corner. Yep. And it was packed. And from multiple people who have messaged me since I wrote about it in our newsletter, lots of people are really happy about it. I tried a variety of things. I am almost guilty for how much I indulged.
Really?
Oh, okay. So I did a breakfast bagel. I did a breakfast sandwich bagel. Okay. And it was over my egg body.
Okay.
Was the name.
Okay.
And fried egg, sharp cheese, spicy mayo. I added some breakfast sausage.
I bet you did. Yes.
Then, and that was excellent, by the way. Then I was gluttonous. I did something called a pizza bialy.
Oh, like a pizza bagel.
Yes, but there is no hole. This is not holy. The Pope would not approve.
Interesting.
It's a sourdough bagel-like thing. And let's think about Bevs Bagels. Their bagels are sourdough. This bialy it's got a depression in the middle of it.
Okay.
So it can really hold the cheese and the sauce and everything. There are pictures up on Daily Detroit. If you don't get our newsletter, sign up for it, but also go to dailydetroit.com. I will show you some of this, but it's got the crispy pepperoni that cups. So dang good.
This is like engineered to be a good hand food, right?
For sure. And I had to be rolled out of there. Rolled.
Was that all you had? That's not so bad.
It was a lot.
I thought you were going to go on the sweet. You got something sweet. Do they have any like sweet on the sweet side?
They have a few different things, but with bagels for me, and this is just a personal preference, to me, it's mostly a savory thing. For me.
I like a good cinnamon raisin.
Ooh. Like in a breakfast context?
Yeah, like with a good cream cheese that complements it nicely. I like the little bit of the sweetness of the cinnamon raisin. Oh, I'm a fan if you can do that right, and you have a nice cinnamony or kind of like sweet spicy type of topping spread for it.
See, for me with cream cheese, it's either the garlic herb or the vegetable, which doesn't necessarily always lean towards a sweet bagel.
No, you can't do it with a sweet bagel. Yeah, sweet bagel needs a certain type of spread. I used to love cinnamon when I was a kid. I wouldn't do this now, but I used to love cinnamon raisin bagels with like a strawberry cream cheese. It's a good flavor.
Well, I'd love to hear your favorite cream cheese. I'd love to hear if you've been to Haraz or Bevs Bagels. I'd like to hear your recommendations of where we should go next. dailydetroit@gmail.com, 313-789-3211. Leave us a voicemail. All right, we have 3 news stories that we're going to get through. And there is big news in the city. as Detroit's population has grown for a second consecutive year. This is according to new U.S. Census estimates. The key things you need to know is that for 2 straight years, this is the first time Detroit's population has risen for 2 straight years since 1957. We are now the 26th largest city proper in America. This is city proper numbers. And we gained 7,000 residents. Detroit Mayor Duggan points to 3 big things: reduced crime, more jobs, and new housing development. And he specifically talked about the addition of young people moving into the city. I have a lot of thoughts about this because of our work here at Daily Detroit, who actually listens and reads our newsletter. 75% of our audience is 45 or under 45 years old, which is very different than most media outlets, but also gives me a particular perch to say, I have been seeing this energy move for a couple of years now, and it's big, and I think a lot of people have been missing it.
Yeah, if people didn't realize this was happening, I don't know what to tell you. That's the certain type of people who are being attracted to living in cities, living in Detroit. I think that, we can be realistic. Like, we can say this is good news, which it is, that the population is growing, but then we can also unpack a little bit and say, like, who's moving here? And I think Detroit is increasingly becoming a destination or an attractive place for young people, young professionals to live, single, married, mostly without kids. That's what Detroit is attracting. So for better or worse, that's the type of people that are moving to Detroit. Is it yet an attractive place for all sorts of people of different ages, of different income levels, of different family styles? I think we still got some work to do there. But certainly on the young professional front, it's becoming a more attractive place. And I think those are the type of people who are moving from somewhere else to the city.
And I'm fielding a lot of people with questions about moving into the city from other places who they maybe have resources that they got somewhere else, but they can be applied a lot bigger here to rehab that house or fix up that place. I can't tell you how many people have sent me notes about, hey, check out the photos of the place that I rehabbed or whatever, which you can do because you have that, bringing more money to the table, and remote work really has a big impact.
Yeah. And I think that the items that the mayor pointed out are spot on. I mean, they're pretty straightforward, but they're spot on in terms of reduced crime, increased safety, housing options, jobs. There's more job opportunities, especially as we're getting out of COVID. There's more people who are working in office, not as many as there once were, of course, but more people who are coming to live in a place because there's jobs here. And yeah, the housing affordability, which, that also has its issues that we need to work on, but that's why people are coming, and it's good news. But I think it's kind of it's a comma in the story, not a period, to say yes, we did it. The population is growing.
There's a lot more work to do, and if you think about affordability, it's all relative. Mm-hmm. It's all relative affordability, as far as the average income in the city of Detroit is still pretty low. You still have this. Also, I'm going to go on another point on this too. I have been around media in Metro Detroit for a long time. And what I've realized is that there is like a different vibe about Detroit amongst a lot of Metro Detroiters versus people who are from outside the state. Like I get a lot of pushback with these Detroit's doing better stories from people who live in Metro Detroit or left the city, or they never lived in the city. There's that cultural stigma that is like, no, we can't do it. And it feels like sometimes outsiders are like, yes, we can, and we will.
Yeah, it does seem that the people who are the most kind of positive or bullish sometimes are the people who don't live in the city, or the farther out you go. Someone from California has just heard great things about Detroit recently. So you're right. You're right about that, and it's interesting. And I think that sometimes maybe the people who do live here is it's kind of like it's okay to celebrate the wins, but acknowledge that there's work to do. And I think sometimes they get into the, whoa, why are we celebrating? No, don't celebrate Detroit yet. We've got there's so much that still needs to be done. There's neighborhoods that's, need, tons of investment. And yes, that is true, but we can also celebrate the wins when we get them.
Another thing I wanted to talk with you, Devon O'Reilly, we were at the groundbreaking for Lee Plaza over on West Grand Boulevard in the Northwest Goldberg neighborhood. It is going to bring 117 units of affordable senior housing to the city with rents capped at 30% of income, which is huge. Like this is truly affordable housing. This is going to be a multi-phase project, or at least 2 phases. So the rehab, which is a huge deal, this building is 100 years old. It's been sitting vacant for 30 years. There has been so much talk about moving this thing. I mean, I remember when our team went up there, Cheyenne, our producer Cheyenne Osrini, went up to the roof in 2017 about redevelopment talks about the Lee Plaza. The fact that this is actually happening and moving is huge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you talk about like the definition of an eyesore, because this thing stands so kind of alone there on Grand Boulevard, right off of Grand River there, like it's just so obvious. It's not like a building amongst other skyscrapers and you kind of get lost. Like I think like the Metropolitan Building, for instance, like you could miss it if you're looking at a skyline. This Lee Plaza just stands out, and it doesn't even have that is a skeletal roof right now. It's like just so obviously an eyesore and a reminder of how far we have to go. And when you can get something like this developed, which again, we went to the groundbreaking, so there's still some years of development, but not that much. They seem like they're on a pretty quick timeline.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. It's going to add a jewel to, again, not downtown. I mean, no one can argue this is like a downtown. It's not even greater downtown. Like this is absolutely what someone would call like a neighborhood development.
And I don't blame people, because getting your media is harder and harder nowadays. But when I've posted about this on social media, or posted about buildings on social media, they'll say, well, there's not enough affordable development. Maybe there isn't enough affordable development, but there are a lot of affordable projects happening, including this one, that are going to make a pretty big dent in reality. Like 117 seniors being able to have a home is a great thing. Now, they also need to raise money for a phase 2, which is going to be a different, they don't have all the details set aside for that. One thing I want to highlight too, I think it was 7 or 8 layers of financing. We've talked about how complicated it can be to do jobs or get things done in the city. 7 or 8 layers of financing to make this happen. And that is not typical with most stuff.
No, the deals like this are so complicated, especially with historic preservation, because you have, different housing authorities, historic governing bodies. Michigan is the state of Michigan is heavily involved in this with historic tax credits and different financing. And so there are, they had the banners there, and you could see there's multiple banks, multiple local institutions, multiple statewide institutions that kind of all had to have a hand in making this happen. And it's not because they just wanted to have as many people involved as possible. It's just that's what it takes for a multi-million-dollar, $50+ million project where you're rehabbing a historic structure. That's just what it takes.
So for our final story, we're going to keep it hot. And let's be honest, it seems like Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan has had a 3 for 3 in these stories, because there are some new polling numbers that came out this week about the upcoming 2026 governor's race. A fresh Target Insight poll shows that current Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, running as an independent, is making significant gains among Detroit voters. He is now at 48% overall support, up 9 points from February. Meanwhile, Democratic Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson has slipped to 32%, and Republican Congressman John James has dropped to just 3% among Detroit voters. Specifically interesting, and I'll link to the whole thing in the show notes. Specifically interesting is something that Norris Howard called and got a lot of hell for, but Duggan is leading 51-28 among black voters in the city, which is groundbreaking. It shows he's got a lot of juice. The big question, can he keep this momentum? This is a long way out. How is this going to go? This is just one snapshot. But man, anytime a politician polls 51 with any group, that is like, oh, and then I'm going to be very interested to see the Democrats' reaction to this.
I think this goes to our last story in the sense that people inside have a certain feeling, and these echo chambers exist. And I think sometimes people in the city tell themselves that Duggan, isn't doing this or isn't doing that or didn't accomplish this or isn't that great. I can tell you his notoriety, his popularity outside of Detroit, and like the farther out you go, like let's go out Michigan, he's wildly popular, as you said, because it tracks with people's perceptions. If you're in, Alpena, all you know about Detroit sometimes is like, it's coming back, and that Mayor Duggan is, probably the guy in your mind who's spearheading this, and he's got to be a great mayor because he turned around Detroit. Like that's the narrative for someone in a farther part of Michigan, and that's not going to change. That narrative is going to exist. And when you talk about a statewide race, there's just this naturally popular perception of Duggan. And these numbers are really incredible. If you look at kind of, it's not only, you talked about the 51% black voters, females. He's leading Benson 46-34 among females. The only segment that Benson is leading Duggan is in white voters in Detroit, interestingly. And John James is basically not even existent. I mean, 2%, 6%, less than 1%, 1%. And I think we need to take note of that when it does come down to a larger race, because I think that some people, maybe on the Republican side, think that because they're running a black Republican potentially, that will, people will vote for someone of their own race. And I think that is a wild miscalculation of how smart a lot of voters actually are and what they see through.
I think there are some wider national headwinds happening here. And I'm going to bust some algorithm bubbles here, because when I posted about this, a lot of people are just, they're shook up about it. But let's talk about a few things. One, both the Democratic and Republican brands are trash to a lot of people. A lot of people will get into posting on Instagram or whatever your TikTok feed or whatever. It'll keep showing you things that you agree with. Mm-hmm. The reality is out there in the world, not only do people not trust Democrats and they're upset about them, but people are mad. Like, look right now with Republicans, 75% of people do not want cuts to Medicaid. And what are Republicans trying to push through? Regular people are angry at both parties. Both parties are very damaged. The other thing, I know that there's a lot of talk about the president as being this very powerful person, but in reality, with races, he does not have coattails, especially when he's not on the ballot. Look at things like Alyssa Slotkin winning here in Michigan, even when he was on the ballot, right? He doesn't have the same coattails. So there's a quality to this that I think people are thinking that Duggan will just, decimate only Democratic voters, but it's not. It's more complicated than I think that people think.
It's a lot trickier than that. Again, the president's poll numbers are sinking, continue to kind of sink at a point where, this is still far away. We're in 2025. This election is in the end of 2026, and a lot can happen. A lot of political headwinds, a lot of things can happen right now. But right now, Duggan is absolutely capturing, like you said, he's like riding like the absolute ethos of everyone right now who basically says both parties suck. I want somebody who doesn't have a political affiliation, who just focuses on getting stuff done. And that is who Mike Duggan has made himself out to be. Like, that would be, anyone who talk about, like, what is Mike Duggan about? He doesn't play politics. He doesn't, not a Republican, not a Democrat. He just gets stuff done and he brings the people to the table and gets the deals done. Like, that's the perception of him. And that's what people want right now.
There's something about this moment too, where Michigan is at and where people are feeling economically. What we learned in that last election is that democracy being on the ballot is not enough. And if democracy being on the ballot is your question, this is just my thought. I'm not saying that it can't change or that they're a bad candidate or any of that. But if democracy on the ballot is the question, that plays to Benson's strengths. Mm-hmm. Secretary of State, all the election security stuff, right? That plays to her strengths. If the question is economy, and Michigan has been in a lot of ways stagnant, on the economic side for a long time. Mm-hmm. If the question is economy, the question is jobs, there's worry about, changes and tariffs and auto suppliers or whatever, that's going to play into Duggan's hands.
Yeah. And to be fair, this could swing back.
For sure.
God knows what could happen in the Trump administration. We could be dealing with, a crisis of democracy in a year. And in that case, you're absolutely right. I think Benson will start to shoot up. But it depends. Not that's a good thing. You don't want that to happen, but it would favor her in terms of politically.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch. And I think this proves that this is going to be a very interesting race. And I just don't want to assume that just because Duggan is doing well, that it means that a Republican is going to win. I just don't think that's the case.
No, well, you're seeing it with these poll numbers. I mean, John James is just, he's microscopic in these poll numbers. And it just shows me that, absolutely no. This is,
because a key part of the right strategy is cleave off some Detroit voters.
Yeah, I think people really misjudge how much. I've talked to a lot of people who really are thinking like Duggan would pull, 60% or 70% Democrats and 30% Republicans. No, I'm telling you, that's not the case at all. He's pulling at least 50-50, I think, and he could even pull more Republicans.
Well, we'll see how more data comes out and how this all shakes out, and we will see you next week on your Daily Detroit. This is our last episode for the week. We really appreciate you listening and watching and following what we're doing. And thank you so much to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Local media requires local support to survive. I love having these kinds of in-depth conversations about the community that we're a part of and that we love. So with that, I'm Jared Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.